All right guys, today we got a 2020 Jeep Cherokee. This thing's got a bad blower motor in it. I want to show you a few ways to test it with some different tools and some problems that could happen depending on the tools that you use. Let's get into it. Before we get into testing this blower motor, we have to go over a couple of things here. How do blower motors work? Well, they're going to have a power and ground going to them. Obviously, it's an electric motor. But we want to control the speed of this electric motor. So let's simplify this, right? So there's several different ways that manufacturers control the speed. We're going to have to put some type of resistance in either the power side or the ground side to allow the speed of the motor to go, down if we put more resistance in it, and up if we put less resistance in it. Most manufacturers are going to have a dedicated power, or a power going to it, fuse power going to the blower motor from somewhere through something, possibly straight from a fuse into it, or do some type of a controller, but it's going to have power going to it normally. And then we're going to have a ground side that is going to have some type of resistance in it, right? So now that resistance can be through an actual resistor. The old school cars, we actually had a little setup where resistors with little coils on them, and maybe sure we could drop a picture in there and show you that. But those were just basically, as you turn the switch, it went through different resistances, and as we add resistance onto the ground side, we have to think about this. We need the voltage to be able to get all the way through back to the source, which is the battery. So if we've got the blower motor and it's a resistance, that's normal, that's your load, and then we have another resistance after that, we're going to lessen the amount of voltage we have here because we need some of it to go over this resistance here, right? So I hope that makes sense. That's a whole different electrical class. I think we did a video on that. But as we lessen the resistance, the blower motor speed will go up. If we increase the resistance, the blower motor speed will go down. Now the other way we can do it, and the way they do it on this vehicle, is they pulse width modulate. So they're using a little controller and they're pulse width modulating the ground side. So as we pulse width that ground, we can add time that the ground is on. So if we add ground time, then the blower motor speed is going to go up. If we lessen the ground time, right? So now we're not on ground as much, blower motor speed is going to go down. It's not complicated at all. It's a pretty simple process, but we have to understand when we're looking at a vehicle, we have to understand what are we looking at? Because if we go into one and it's pulse width modulated and we're expecting to see some kind of resistance and not pulse width, we could definitely go down the wrong path. So that's just basic blower motor, or any motor that's we're trying to control the speed on, kind of how they do it. So let me show you what we got in here. I just want to show you what we've got hooked up. And I wanted you to, well, first of all, I guess I want to tell you, this blower motor intermittently works. So sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't work. Sometimes it goes really, really slow. You got it on high speed and it'll just be sitting there spinning just kind of slow. And sometimes it'll work fine. And it is making some noise. So let me take you in here, let you listen to it. Okay. So that noise will change, right? So as we've worked on it, it's just gotten kind of, sometimes it'll be a little louder, sometimes it'll be a little quieter. So a lot of times people say, oh, well, and sometimes people think that's a leaf or something in the blower motor or something, they'll pull it down, and, we don't want to be chasing stuff, right? We want to diagnose the problem. So the easiest blower motors to diagnose really are the ones that just don't work. You get in the car, they're just not coming on at all. And that's easy, right? We're going to check our powers and grounds going to it. If we've got power going to it and we've got ground going to it, then the blower motor should turn. If it doesn't, we got a bad blower motor. So the ones that are difficult are like this, where it's intermittent. This thing's working sometimes, sometimes it's not. Well, is it a blower motor? Is it the controller? Is it power problem? Right? I mean, is it a relay issue? Who knows? So I'm going to show you, we've got a scope hooked up to it now. But before because everybody's always like, well, why do you use a scope? And there are times when you can check a blower motor with a meter. So we got the meter here right now. Let's go ahead and turn it on. And I'm just going to show you on this one, right, where it possibly could not show you the problem. Again, if we've got a dead blower motor, this tool's perfectly fine, right? If we're going to check powers and grounds going to it. If it's got power and ground, you're in, you're out. you're good. So we are connected in the same spot that the scope's connected. We're just in the power and the ground going to the blower motor. So this this connector, come down a little bit. There you go. Nope. Right there. So this connector is just going straight into the blower motor. Blower motor's right above that. Hard to see under here. So let's take a look at the meter. So the meter is showing basically system voltage, a little lower than that, right? But so we would go, okay, we've got voltage there. Is it the blower motor that's bad? Well, the blower motor's running right now. It's turning, it's making a little bit of noise, but is it the blower motor that's the issue? It's intermittent. If this vehicle came in here and this blower motor came on, and this noise will even get less than that at times, get worse than that at times too, but if it's less than that and the blower's coming on and it's, you know, a lot of people will be like, well, it's blowing, it's good, right? There's no issue with it. I can't get it. You know, I got power and ground going to it, and you could turn that blower down. Let's do this. Let's play around here real quick. Watch the meter. All I'm going to do is take the blower motor speed, and I'm just going to turn it down. That's all I'm going to do. It's on high right now. So if we watch the meter, you see the voltage goes down because we're checking the voltage that's available to the blower motor. And as I went down, it got worse. Now as I come back up now and I'm at high speed, now it's even working, just seems like a little bit better, right? A little quieter. So that's normal operation, that our voltage is going to drop as our speed dropped. Do we know what's wrong with this vehicle? Can we say with certainty that that blower motor is bad using that meter? Well, right now it's questionable, right? Because the blower motor is actually functioning right this second. So let's go over here and look at the scope. But now if you had a dead blower motor, right, it just wasn't coming on, 100%. If that meter is showing that and it's changing when you do that, blower motor's bad. You're golden. All right, let's blow this up. So first of all, let's show you what we got here. So our red is our power, right? So we can see that we've got our voltage going into it. It's nice and steady. We're good there. We have no issues there. Now let's look at our ground side. So if we go to our ground side, that definitely doesn't look right. Now we are pulse width modulated, but does that look normal? The answer to that's no. Let's go ahead and blow this up a little bit. Now if we come in here, you can see, these yellow spikes, right? And you see how they go all the way up, all the way up to 12 volts, right? Well, that's a problem inside the blower motor. That's a winding that's inside that blower motor that's an issue. And we can see that if we come down here, for those of you that do like fuel pump amperage tests, the good thing about the automotive test solution scope is we can do this without even having an amp clamp on it. You see these little yellow humps down here. Even the red humps are inverted, but that's still showing you those humps that are on here are going to be exactly the same. If we put an amp clamp on it, it's going to look exactly the same. They're going to run right on top of each other. So you can actually do a quote-unquote amperage test without even having an amp clamp on it. So let's go ahead, let's do this, let's zoom out, go back here, let's blow this up again. When we see this, when we see these spikes like that, 100% that blower motor is no good. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to think it's something else. I don't have to think it's a resistor or a controller. It is not. That is 100% inside that blower motor is the problem. I said windings, bad armature, bad spot on the armature. So, all right, now we know now with the scope that blower motor is no good. There's no question about it. The scope told us 100%. But so this was an intermittent one. It's blowing right now, but we can determine that it is bad by looking at a scope. Now, what's another way that we could determine it's bad? If we have a meter, but we want to be sure, maybe you've got a little bit of a, any one of them really, you want to be sure that the resistor is able to actually do what it's supposed to do. You want to be sure that the power going to it is able to carry the load of a blower motor. Blower motor is a load, right? It's no question about that. It's not some light duty thing. So a good way to do that is using a load, right? We're going to put a load in place of the blower motor. You got a bad blower motor, you get in the car, no blower motor at all. You check your power and ground to it with your meter, it's good. Or you don't have a meter, right? Let's just say you don't have a meter, you're trying to test this thing out, but you've got some type of a load box or a headlight bulb, something, right? Be careful with the amount of amperage you're pulling, but you know, I would say probably on a blower motor, 5 amps is perfectly fine. We're at 2.5 right here, but you want to test it out. You can take the blower motor connector off the blower motor, right? And you're just going to connect a, some type of a load, in this case the light, across that connection, right? So we got power and ground at our blower motor connector. Right now that light's lit, fully lit. Is it able to be controlled? Well, let's take a look. I'm going to take the blower motor speed now, and I'm just going to turn it down while we watch that light. Right? So now the light's getting dimmer because I'm all the way down on 1. I'm going to turn it back up again. Right? Again, it's pretty simple stuff, guys. All it is we're just adding resistance and taking away resistance. And that's just going to do the same thing to that light as it would to the actual motor itself. So in this case, even if you've just got a test light that's got a little bit of a load, you need something with a little bit of a load, because you need to know, is this thing able to supply, because this motor is going to pull some amperage. If you've got that, you can do this with one of the little, obviously this is one of Joe's electric, boxes here, which is super good because we've got different loads we can do on it. But the reality is you could just take just a 1157 bulb or whatever. If you got a socket and you just got that as a load test, boom, put it in there, turn it on. You're pretty much in and out of there. You got the answers that you need. You know it's going to work when if it works on that light bulb, you know it's going to work when the blower motor's in it. The other thing that this test will do is it'll show you that controller, whatever it may be, the resistor, controller, module, whatever it is that's controlling the resistance going into that blower motor, whether it be on the ground side or the power side. You know that's functioning because it's able to do it on this light with a load, right? So one thing you got to be careful of, a lot of times when a blower motor will go bad, always check your connections at your resistor, always check at the resistor or the controller. Also, obviously you're going to be unplugging the blower motor if you're replacing it. Really look hard at those connections, because a lot of times blower motors will start pulling a lot of amps. They'll go bad, they'll pull more amps, and if you got a little bit of a bad connection, they'll start to melt. And so you got to make sure your connections are good. And then sometimes it's not even just a bad blower motor. A lot of times, a lot of vehicles, I think it was a lot of GMs had this issue. I think Ford had this issue. Ford, I think, still has this issue on some vehicles, but there's just connections are just not really good. You just have bad connections there, and this blower motor is pulling some amps, and that connection will get hot and it'll just melt, and then you got to replace connectors and terminals and all kind of stuff. So be on the lookout for that. So hopefully this will help you guys when you're diagnosing blower motors. Obviously the ones that are intermittent and maybe coming and going, you might need a scope to be able to just 100% say that it's the blower motor bad. But on the ones that just are not working at all, you can get in and out of there with some pretty inexpensive tools and have the answer. So hope you liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up, subscribe button, bell notification. Leave us a comment down below. Tell us your kind of stories on blower motors. If you had melted connectors and bad blower motors, and how have you determined they're bad. So appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next one.